Hello, everyone. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. So I'm going to do a topic in a second here. What's pissing me off today? But then I'm going to answer some questions if you got any. So we'll spend a little time on that, unless you don't even have any good questions, in which case it's fucking on you. All right, it's up to you whether you have good questions. But I want to get into so you may have noticed that. Trump did some shit at the Pentagon, and I want to get into that and what you're not really being told. So, all right, let me back up. So as you probably know, a couple days ago, Trump fired the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, from his job as the top guy at the world's largest killing machine. Man, that's got to look good on a resume, doesn't it? Don't you wish you had that on your resume? And Trump has put in Christopher Miller, a Trump yes man, a standard Trumpian maniac. A lot of people are freaking out about this, right? They're saying, oh, my God, it means Trump is preparing a military coup. I think that must be what's going on, is he's rigging the military, you know. And here's the thing. I think that's bullshit, but there's something much deeper to this that the mainstream corporate media doesn't want to talk about for the most part. Trump's reasoning for replacing the top of our military may be far, far more sinister. It may be horrific. It may just be a soul staining on it in how disgusting it is. He may be attempting to bring some troops home. I know. It's tough. It's tough to come to terms with. It sounds awful. And I'll get to that in a second, so keep your pants on. But first you need to know, in case you're new to this, in case you're new to Moment of Clarity, I am no fan of Bush, okay? Did I say Bush? Wow. These war criminals all start to blend together. I'm no fan of Trump or Biden or Bush for that matter. I don't celebrate war criminals. And you can throw Bush into that group too. Obama, Bush, Biden, Trump, all fucking war criminals. I don't jump around for them. I don't celebrate them. I don't have balloons or do something like that. Besides, they're terrible to have at your parties. They really are, because you're just looking to have a good time, and then you find out that they drowned a kid in the swimming pool. And you're like, what the fuck, man? I did such a buzzkill. I was just doing belly shots off of Catherine Zeta-Jones and now this shit. And they're like, what? I thought it was a party. You got to kill a couple kids. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I don't have a pool. They do it in the bathtub. Anyway, that being said, yes, Trump is a parasite, and now he's behaving like a parasite. Getting him out of the White House has become like trying to remove a tick that is really burrowed in there. First, you try to yank it out, then you try to burn it off, then you dunk it in alcohol, and then you read online, someone says that you have to urinate on it, so maybe you'll try that. We're not even halfway through that list of trying to remove Trump, but I bet you we get to the part with the urine. I bet you we do. But that being said, let's get to what Trump might be doing at the Pentagon. Now, here's a quote from, like I said, mainstream media almost not covering this, but here's one fairly mainstream media article from Vox, which is not generally a source you should trust, but at times they get something right. So let's assume they actually have some sourcing for this. You know, every once in a while they get something right. It's like a blind squirrel sometimes successfully scratches its own ass. The article at Vox is titled, "Why Trump is Suddenly Replacing Pentagon Officials with Loyalists." And the author says, and here's a quote, "Some worry that a sinister plot is afoot, but experts I spoke to doubt those explanations and suspect that really what's going on is that Trump finally had an opening to clean house at the Pentagon with the election now over, and that he's putting in people more amenable to his wishes in order to finally accomplish some of the policies the Esper-led Pentagon had pushed back on." So then the question becomes, well, what? What is it? What are the Trump policies that our beloved war machine has been pushing back against? What is it that Trump wants to do? Is it turn Iran into an impact crater? Is it to nuclear bomb hurricanes, as he once proposed? Is it to drone bomb the 30 women who have accused him of assault? He's apparently terrified of sharks, so maybe his plan is to start sending Black Hawk helicopters after every shark in the ocean. Who knows? Who knows? What are the crazy plans that Trump wants to achieve in the last 2 months here of his presidency? Well, here's the end of the quote from the Vox article. Finally accomplished some of the policies that the Esper-led Pentagon had pushed back on, such as withdrawing all remaining U.S. troops from Afghanistan before Christmas. That's right. Trump is trying to bring U.S. troops home, and the military-industrial complex won't let him. They won't let him bringing troops home would be horrifying to them. We've only been at war in Afghanistan for a mere 18, 19 years. You got to give it a chance, right? You got to. You don't want to leave too early. You don't know. We want to find out what you're capable of. What can you really achieve? And to answer the question, I said Vox, not Fox. This is there's Fox News and then there's Vox, VOX, which is like a standard liberal Huffington Post garbage crap site. But like I said, occasionally they have some sourcing that is legitimate, and I think in this point, in this article, they probably have it right. So back to what I was saying, he's trying to bring some troops home, and you might remember that almost every time Trump has brought back troops from around the world or threatened to bring back troops, some crazy story suddenly comes out that makes bringing troops home more difficult or impossible. When he said when he told the Pentagon to bring all the troops out of Syria, which isn't even that many troops, but he told them that. Do you remember what happened? Suddenly there was a chemical weapons attack, and then leaked OPCW reports have shown that it wasn't real. It didn't happen. Later, when he said he was bringing troops home from Syria, our corporate media and the military said, but then Assad will get all the oil. And meaning Assad would get his own country's oil. Oh, the horror. So Trump said, oh, okay, leave them there to keep all the oil. Remember, he did interviews. He said, we're getting all the oil. We're keeping all the oil. Then he kept trying to bring troops out of Syria, and our corporate media next ran around with their hair on fire saying, the Kurds, we're leaving the Kurds to die. As if they give a shit about the Kurds. Our media, our deep state, our State Department, they don't care about Kurds. Syria wouldn't have become collapsed to begin with if it weren't for us. You think we care about a few Kurds? We are not a force for peace. Is it starting to get through to you? Peace does not follow in our wake. Saying America is there to keep the peace is like saying, I brought Bill Cosby here to protect the women. Here's Martin Shkreli. I had him show up to make sure everyone gets quality health care. It's totally fucking bananas. Then, most recently, Trump said he was bringing home troops from Germany and Afghanistan. Do you recall what story popped up out of nowhere the moment he said that? Oh, Russia is paying the Taliban bounties to kill U.S. troops. Remember that one? What happened to that story, right? Seems like it was just here. Where'd it go? Oh, it became clear there was no evidence for it. It was just an anonymous source at the Pentagon or the State Department, and their job is to lie to the American people when they feel they need to. So why put out that garbage story right then? Because it stopped Trump from bringing troops home from Germany and Afghanistan. They were like, we need the troops there to fight Russia via the Taliban. We need the troops in Germany because that's the front line of defense against Russia. And they've been playing the Taliban. I mean, they've been playing that fiddle for a long time, the Taliban via Russia. And I mean, look, the corporate sewage media, and in that I, of course, include Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. They loved that story when it came out, right? They got to use it to hate Russia, hate the Taliban, show that Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, say that Trump doesn't care about the troops, to say that Trump and Putin give each other handies under the table at the summit in Helsinki, which they probably did, but it's unrelated. And so they ran wild with this completely fake story for days. One of them, I can't remember which one on MSNBC because, clowns look alike, right? They got face paint on. They all blend together. One of them, I remember specifically showing images of soldiers on the screen, like their headshot photo these are the soldiers that were killed by the Russian bounties. But there was fucking no evidence of any of it. You know what? I'm going to show the images of soldiers killed by MSNBC's garbage coverage. I'll just put them up on the screen, and here they are. Here are their headshots of the soldiers who MSNBC's killed. Oh, look at this poor lieutenant here. He had 42 children at home that are fatherless now, and he had 3 wives and 6 mistresses, and they're all lost their husband, Mr. Father person, brother, and all of them are orphans, and he loved his country. I hope you care about this, Joy Reid. Point being, the likelihood is that Trump is trying to bring troops home. And like I said, I don't fucking defend Trump. But in this case, the likelihood is that he's trying to bring troops home, and the military-industrial complex and the deep state won't let him. And like I've said before, Trump is no peace-loving hippie, all right? I guarantee he doesn't wear patchouli oil and dance in drum circles. Although he probably does grow out his armpit hair. He grows it out, and then he does the weird comb-over thing that he does with his head hair. He combs it. It's like in a loop. He takes the armpit hair, combs it into a loop, folds it back on itself, and then sprays that into place. So that it covers everything. But so he's no hippie. He's no peacenik. But he's dropped more bombs per hour during his presidency than anyone before him. Obama's military averaged around 30,000 per year, and Trump is more like 40,000 per year, meaning the Pentagon under him. He also assassinated Iran's top general, which could have led us into a massive war that would have made the Iraq war look like an episode of My Little Pony. It didn't end up that way because Iran behaved like the fucking adult in the room and didn't go full Mel Gibson on a bad day on us. So basically, we were saved by the fact that Iran didn't behave the same way Trump was behaving. Point being, Trump, no peacenik. But in this case, he's likely trying to bring home some troops, probably because he wants to run in 2024. So he wants to say he lived up to that campaign promise. And the machinery of our government can't dare allow him to do that. Their job is to defend power at all costs. Their job is to defend U.S. hegemony at all costs. Doing so also defends profit at all costs. They don't give a fuck about the troops. They don't give a fuck about the people we kill overseas. And that's why we're never leaving Afghanistan. We may claim peace and we may sign some fucking deal, but we're not leaving. We're not leaving. Same with Iraq. We claim to be done with it, but we keep one foot there just in case we need to whoop some ass to claim our territory. I mean, how insane is it that the U.S. president has to try desperately to trick the Pentagon into bringing troops home? He has to fire people and put in new idiots that'll actually do it. Like it has to be a secret to bring troops home. Shh, don't tell anyone. But I'm going to sneak some soldiers back home. Don't let anyone know. We might not have as many trained killers in Afghanistan ready to go at any minute. It's a secret. And secondly, how insane is it that one of the most craven, soulless, sociopathic pieces of shit who has ever been a president is the one that wants to bring the troops home and can't? What does that tell you about our system? That shows how fucked up this whole thing is. Anyway, that's your moment of clarity. But I'm going to answer some questions now. But if you think this is important, please share this video, share the feed. I'm going to answer some questions if there's a good ones in the chat. By the way, I'm doing a live stream at 8 p.m. Sunday with Eleanor Goldfield. We'll be taking your questions, answering your topics, and it's only at youtube.com/momentofclarity. I noticed Ben here is saying there's 6 U.S. bases, military bases in England alone, which doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, for those of you wondering, the U.S. has roughly 800 to 900. It's tough to tell with all the black sites, but 800, 900 military bases around the world outside of the U.S. Now, you might think to yourself, well, okay, well, that's what powerful countries do. They have military bases elsewhere around the world. Do you know the next country with the most military bases outside of its own borders? The next country is Russia, I believe, with roughly 10. 10. And most of those are in the former Soviet Union. 10. We have like 900, 800, 900. China apparently has 1 to 2, I believe. It may have gone up to 2. I know that it's I know it's 1. And when a few years ago, when China developed their first base, I can't remember which country it's in, but developed their first base outside of China, we lost our fucking minds. Our mainstream media was just like, it's all, they're taking over. They own the world now. They have a base outside of the fucking borders. And we're like, we only have 800. What are we going to do? So, in case you were wondering about the number of bases, let's see. Someone's asking me if I share someone's view of the empire's imminent collapse. I don't know the theory you're referencing, or the person you're referencing, but do I see America's empire imminent collapse? Yes, largely because I see late stage capitalism as an imminent collapse. We are kind of America's the most progressed along the capitalism ladder. You extract all the resources, you create massive inequality, and you create a completely unsustainable system, both around the world and in the country. So we are stretching this to the brink. And now, of course, you have there's always that precipitating thing, that match that lights the embers, that was all laid out, the kindling. We have laid out a lot of fucking kindling, and there's that match that lights it. And the match could be the pandemic, it could be a lot of things, but I think capitalism it has a gravity going towards an end conclusion. And the end conclusion is a few corporations, Google, Amazon, couple others, Apple, that basically own everything. Few weapons contractors basically own everything. They have all the power, all the money, and things can't sustain like that. People can't live, people can't get by. And then you have the environmental destruction. At no point do they give a shit about how they're destroying the world. Obviously, we're seeing the end stages of that with the fucking, the whole states are on fire. The areas are on fire. Every year they go, these are historic fires. It's just this shit. We look in the history books. This is the worst fire that's ever been. And if you're not an idiot, you go, didn't you say that last year? And the year before? How many years in a row is it going to be historic fires? It's never been like this before. Before we start to realize what the fuck is going down. Let's see. Any more questions? Someone asked me to do stand-up comedy again. I'd love to, but as you know, that's kind of impossible right now. Let's see. Those are not questions. Is it possible for Trump to win the elections? No. Trump has lost the fucking election. Jesus Christ. Look, folks. I said this on another live stream. I've studied election integrity and been fucking ranting and raving about it for years. Our elections are fucked in a lot of ways. But when it comes to the general election, they are more fucked towards the Republicans. Meaning you have millions of people, literally millions of people that are purged from the voter rolls. I'm not going to go through how because I do it fucking, it feels like every episode. But millions of people, mostly people of color, purged from the voter rolls. And this happened again this time around. And that's why the polls were wrong this time around, right? Again, every time they say, oh, look, Democrats are going to do great. And then the Democrats either lose or barely squeak by. And that's because they've purged these people from the rolls. They think they're voting. They're not fucking voting. So Trump lost so bad that even that theft was not enough to get him over the brink. It got close in a lot of ways, closer than they thought it would, but it was not enough. And so Trump has lost his election. There's no way for him to just fucking manifest this thing unless he wants to go full on coup. But it doesn't seem that even that would work because most of the levers of the deep state are still outside of his grasp. I mean, there's a lot of Republicans in the deep state who might like republicanism, but they fucking don't like him. And so, you know, you got that, you got Democrats, but at the end of the day, right, this is these two parties are the two sides of the same coin. They're both corporate, pro unfettered capitalism, pro exploitation, pro inequality, pro Wall Street, pro endless war parties. So they agree on all that. 90% of everything this country stands for and is about and does and behavior, 90% of it, they agree on it all. High five and all the way down. And so really all they're really upset about with Trump is not that he's some kind of Hitler. As you can see, when he's trying to bring some troops home and they're fucking furious. Really what's going on with Trump is that he is not a good, he doesn't keep the exploitation machinery stable. Now, that part of him, I don't mind. I don't mind if the machinery is not stable because obviously a lot of it is used to, as I called it, exploitation machinery. A lot of it is used to exploit and harm people. So I don't care if it's not as stable, if it's not as professional. But, of course, Trump also has these disgusting fascist tendencies like being a white supremacist and like trying to steal this election that he's lost in any way he can. So yeah, I mean, that's where it stands. And so far, there's no way Trump can steal this thing. That doesn't mean he couldn't wreak a lot of havoc in his last couple of months. Sanchez Mind and Music channel is asking, why didn't Trump release all of the JFK files, which I talked about this before last week. Trump should absolutely release all of the JFK files, all of the MLK files, all of the RFK files. God, what a beautiful fuck you to the ruling elite. He should absolutely do that. And it would be so sweet. It would be so sweet. But it doesn't, so far, it doesn't seem that he's going to do that. I don't know what's, you know, people ask why he hasn't. I know he started to, do you remember at the beginning of his presidency, he started to release some JFK files. And I think he did get them to release some of them, but they still covered up other parts of it. And I don't know what they said to him. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what it was. You know, was it that we have these tapes showing you, you know, fucking a greyhound, the dog, not the bus. Not that he hasn't fucked a bus. I feel like he probably has, but you know, fucking a sheepdog out in a field somewhere. You know, on the back nine at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what it is that they must have told him to stop him from revealing the JFK files so far, but oh, that'd be amazing. Mark House is asking why he doesn't reveal UFO footage. First of all, I don't actually think. I think there's a lot about this fucking world and globe and life and the universe that we don't know. I don't think aliens are here, at least not ones that we're capable of observing or interacting with. But in terms of UFO footage, the Pentagon has released some UFO footage. Now, keep in mind, UFO just stands for unidentified flying object. So that doesn't mean it has to be an intelligent life form. It could be something we just really don't fucking understand. Believe it or not, there are things we don't understand. And so they released this footage. You can go watch it right now if you want, Pentagon UFO footage. And it's like a 5-10 minute video of fighter jet pilots. I think there's more than one of them. And he sees a little blurry thing on his radar that seems to be going faster than them, seems to go behind them and then in front of them and go up and down. And they can't seem to figure out what the fuck it is. All they know is that it's faster than our fastest jets. And they don't understand it. My guess is that before he took that video, the pilot, and they've had multiple videos, so maybe multiple pilots have done this. The pilot sneezed on the windshield. And so there was like snot dripping down. And then he was like, it's faster than us, because it looks like it's in front of it. And then as it moves down the window, he goes, it's going down. And then maybe they dip down in the plane and the snot goes up a little. And he's like, it's moving up. So I'm guessing my money's on snot. I don't know what your money is. My money's on snot. Yes, release Julian Assange. By the way, I'll spend a few more minutes hanging out and chat with you guys. But please do hit subscribe on youtube.com/moment of clarity. Many of you are subscribed to other channels. Those, unfortunately, are incredibly suppressed. So I've created the new one, youtube.com/moment of clarity. So far, that one seems to be less suppressed. So please join that. Hit subscribe, hit the bell icon. Do I think, let's see, Yanni's asking, do I think we're going to get a worse Trump after Biden? So that's certainly a possibility. I mean, here's the thing is like I said, the late stage capitalism is heading towards another collapse. You know, how are they going to prop it up? Are they just going to keep printing trillions of dollars? How long can that game go on? So there's the horrible president leader. And then there's the reality of the situation, which, yes, you could get someone terrible. Even, you know, Biden is awful, but you could get someone as bad as Trump, worse than Trump, whatever, you know, Mike Pompeo in there, some awful shit. But we've got to understand that our reality is only somewhat connected to those guys. I mean, those guys have a lot of power, but they're not. A lot of what's going on right now, like the collapsing of our environment and, you know, the fucking endless fires around the country and the hurricanes and the fact that, you know, people can't get by. It's like it may be made a little worse. You know, Trump gave tax cuts to the corporate rulers, but he made it a little worse. But he didn't create all that shit, right? He didn't create climate change. He was only in power for 4 years. Like, most of this horrible reality that we're living through was not created by Donald Trump. And so if someone does come after Biden, oh my God, he's as horrible as Trump, or he's worse, or whatever, more racist, more outwardly racist. Yeah, it could happen. But you've got to remember that if we're going to do something about this shitstorm, it's got to come on levels that are not just the presidency. People spend so much fucking time just focused on the presidency. And even when I talk about the president, even when I talk, like in this video, even when I talk about Donald Trump, I try and make it about much more than him, right? I made it about our military-industrial complex. I made it about the pressure on the powerful to keep all of our troops overseas. I made it about our history of war and our military bases around the world. And it's like, if you're just talking about the behavior of one dude or one woman, then you're missing the goddamn point. And especially if you're spending hours of coverage on, you know, what Nancy Pelosi did or what Chuck Schumer might do or failed to do. It's like, if you're spending all your time talking about that, they already won. So I'm not saying you can't mention it. And I often use those characters as an in to the deeper point, but fucking move past it. Keep talking, dig deeper than just these leaders, just these goons. Someone with a name I can't pronounce because it doesn't have any vowels asks, what do you think about Bitcoin? Yeah, I think Bitcoin has shot up recently. I think that probably part of the reason for the Bitcoin increase is people are probably expecting some form of collapse coming up. And, you know, if not a collapse, maybe a depression. And so they figure, well, that's going to hurt the US dollar. Let me put my money in something that's not central banking. And so people are putting it into Bitcoin. Totally understandable. I mean, I think that in a lot of ways, unless we find ways to use Bitcoin in a more powerful way that can actually, cause damage to kind of like the central banking system that kind of rules the world, will Bitcoin achieve that? I don't know. You know, some people that are kind of Bitcoin utopianists, they say, oh, Bitcoin's going to fix it all. If we all have a Bitcoin, then Bitcoin it'll feed your kids. I don't know if you know this, but if you rub a Bitcoin on your hand, it gets rid of cuts and scrapes and bruises. Bitcoin is good for if you want to get like a shiny complexion in your hair, you just rub some Bitcoin in there. Bitcoin, if you stick a Bitcoin in your ear, you'll be erect for hours. Even if you're a woman, you'll grow a penis and become erect. So that sounds kind of horrifying because most women I know like being women. So growing a penis sounds like fucking awful to them. So you'd end up with like a disease that's a penis. Anyway, so some people think Bitcoin's going to solve all our problems. I do not believe that. I think that Bitcoin could become more powerful if it really starts to hurt central banking. But, nations have a lot of power in terms of whether they allow us to use Bitcoin, especially now that they're cracking down on the internet. They control the internet in a way they never have before. So if they wanted to stop everyone from using Bitcoin, they could probably achieve it or get within some realm of achieving it, so they can't stop it all, but they stop most of it. It's like in that way. I do fear, and maybe you could have Bitcoin experts argue with me and say this isn't true, but I do fear it could be like Napster, where it's going great, and one day they're like, okay, we're turning it off. Click. That doesn't mean the Bitcoins go away. They're still there, and they're still obviously there'll be places around the world you could still use them or transfer them. So I'm not saying you'd lose all your money instantly, but I'm saying if they did that, Bitcoin would become worth a lot less because a lot fewer people would be capable of using it. So the question is, can we get across that hurdle? But yeah, in general, it's good to have some sort of finance that's outside of central banking, that isn't just America printing all the goddamn money that we ever want and just going nuts with it, because that's what it is. We print as much as we want, and when I say print, we don't even print most of it. Something like 98% of all money, and it's going to go up now because in the pandemic, no one's using cash. 98% of all money is never printed, meaning it is literally just an idea in a computer. Like, imagine that. Imagine the fucking billions of dollars that the Koch brothers have. One of them's dead, but I still call them the Koch brothers. The billions of dollars the Koch brothers have. What do they have, 100 billion or something? It's all just an idea. It's a fucking zeros and ones on a computer screen. None of it's printed. None of it's backed in anything other than the U.S. government saying, yep, that's $1 billion. But then again, in a lot of ways, so is Bitcoin. However, unlike the dollar, Bitcoin cannot just be printed forever. Bitcoin is supposed to be the opposite of dollars, where dollars suffer from inflation. A dollar is not worth as much as it used to be, right? Over 20 years, a dollar becomes worth, 70 cents or 50 cents of what it used to be worth. Bitcoin is supposed to be the opposite because there are fewer and fewer Bitcoins to be mined using the data mining. Well, not data mining, but basically mathematical equations that are done by computers. And so therefore it should keep going up. However, if countries stopped people from using it, I think it would go down. But Ben is hashtagging the Zeitgeist movement. People should look it up. Resource-based economy. Also, Peter Joseph, who created the Zeitgeist movement, has a new movie. You can watch it. You can stream it online right now. It's called Interreflections. In fact, I'll type it on here. It has a lot of the same. It has a lot of the same points from the Zeitgeist movement. So Interreflections, however, Interreflections is a scripted movie with actors. So it's if you're not into documentaries, you're not into watching just kind of dry documentary about what money means and everything, you should check out Interreflections. It's a good time, and share it with your friends. Silence is Violence is asking me to talk about overpopulation. So overpopulation it can be a thing. I don't deny. I mean, we definitely, if everyone lived the way Americans live, then apparently we'd need 5 Earths, although I think it's getting to be more than that. So there's 2 things here. Yes, overpopulation is a problem, but it's a problem right now because of the way the rich live, the rich in this world. And when I say the rich, I mean the rich countries. I don't mean the people that have millions of dollars. Yes, they are the rich, but most people in America, compared to third worlds, compared to, sub-Saharan Africa, is most of us are rich. If you're middle class, if you're lower middle class, if you're anything, if you have an apartment and a car in this country, in America or in England or you know, so many countries, then you are living like the rich of the world. So that's what for right now. That's what I mean when I say the rich. If everyone lives the way we live, then the world would collapse even quicker than it is. It's collapsing anyway. Our environment's collapsing anyway. So really, step one is to change the way that so much of the world lives. I mean, the average amount of waste that is dumped out of like one family living in a McMansion in Tampa, Florida, is like the amount of waste coming out of 25 or 50 poor people in India. Like one McMansion, and I have a cousin who's got one of these fucking things with the fake pillars that don't hold anything up. You just want to look like a Greek god, so you put pillars on the front of the house and they just pumping AC. They have a fucking fake little movie theater in their house, and they're just pumping AC like like they live in Florida and they got the house at roughly 45 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. I mean, the amount, and it's incredible the amount of waste that is just pumped out of a single household, and they have 5 cars or whatever. And I'm not talking about my cousins anymore. I'm just talking about people that live in McMansions. And it's like, if you compare that amount, that carbon footprint, the fucking shit thrown away, the amount eaten, the amount bought up, the number of Amazon boxes arriving at the door, shipped across the country, made in Guam. Like, if you count all of that, then it's a poor person in India wouldn't put out that much waste their entire lives. Like, it's crazy. So really, that's the discussion first. First and foremost, that needs to be the discussion. Then you can also get beyond that discussion to an overpopulation issue. But the truth is, we live in a post-scarcity world. And if you watch Inner Reflections or Zeitgeist, you'll see what that means. We live in a world where no one needs to be hungry or homeless or lacking in clean water. Like, there are ways to do it, and we could have a zero carbon footprint, and we could have everyone taken care of. But instead, we live in this ridiculous market-based economy, profit over all else, destroy the world so that each of us can have a swimming pool. Like, it's fucking insane. And getting people outside of that mental cage where they think it's natural or something is really tough. Really tough to break people out of that. I mean, seriously, because I use this reference all the time, but it really is like one fish going up to another fish and saying, "How's the water today?" And the other fish goes, "What's water?" They just live in it, and they don't even know it's there. And if you try and talk to them about it, they can't even communicate with you because they can't understand that this isn't just how we should be living and how everything should go all the time. Todd Mill says scarcity is a myth. Sustainability is not. Yes. I agree. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, well, I'll wrap it up here in a second. I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Please click subscribe. Maybe I'll answer one more question if I see one. So here's one. NSPK77 is talking about how water is becoming a precious commodity. That is true. A lot of that is because of these companies buying it up and acting like they own it, when in fact no one should own our water supplies. They should be for the people. Nestle and Coke are some of the biggest water owners in the world. And then he or she also mentions the insect apocalypse, that 25% yearly decline. Yeah, if you read up on how the insects are dying, it truly is one of the most horrifying things, because, you know, you can talk about this animal or that animal going extinct. And while those are very sad and, you know, that fucking make me sad to hear that you're not going to have these animals anymore, you can still survive. Humans can survive on this planet without a specific, you know, this animal or that animal. But with the insects going, that's game over, man. You get rid of all the insects, that is game over. And, you know, they believe it's a combination of climate change and the neonicotinoids, if I pronounce that right, which are basically, you know, Monsanto created GMO crops that don't just kill off the pests that eat those plants, they kill off basically all insects. And so, and those GMOs then get in the food supply and they end up going everywhere. So even farms that don't even think they're planting this certain GMO crop are. And the insects, the depopulation of the insects is happening in a broad way, and so that, of course, then moves up the food chain, right? The birds die off, and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if you know this. This is something that's not taught in school, but we're kind of part of this food chain. We like to. We're taught in capitalism that we're just like outside of it all. That we just lord over it, and we just say, "Bring me a steak." And I will eat part of the cow that I never saw, and it will be delicious. We're not taught that we are part of the environment. We're in it. And if anything acts like it owns the environment and just eats it all and cuts it all down, it's unsurvivable. You will not last long. And so we're at that point. We're at a fork in the road. And I think we should take it. We're at a fork in the road, and honestly, it's right now is whether we all decide that we're standing up and fighting back and fighting for a sustainable future, or whether we sit here all day bickering about Joe Biden, because he's not going to help. Neither will Donald Trump. We know what Joe Biden's going to do. Joe Biden's going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accords and act like he's done all he needs to do for climate change. Meanwhile, giving massive subsidies to fossil fuels. The Paris Climate Accords has achieved essentially nothing. The countries that are still in it, we just pulled out, right? The countries that are still in it have not achieved their goals either. So that shows how much being in it matters, because there's no enforcement mechanism. This is why you had big banks and big oil and everything cheering the Paris Climate Agreement. And some people like to go, well, it showed cooperation. It showed that we could all work together in a bunch of different countries and we could all help deal with climate change. So we're friends now. Yeah, it showed we could all come together and do shit diddly. It showed we could all come together and create a document that was meaningless. That's what it showed. Congratulations. To me, it's just a giant fucking scam. I mean, honestly, if that's the best we can do on dealing with our environment is a fake document with no enforcement mechanisms, then we're fucked. It's over. So Biden's going to make a big deal out of it, I'm sure. He'll fucking have a ceremony and he'll jump up and down and all the mainstream media will tell you, look at the wonderful Joe Biden did for the environments. And it won't do shit. So we got to demand more than that. Also, guys, I am now on Rockfin, rockfin.com/Lee Camp. And Rockfin basically supports creators by, another cryptocurrency. And but you can watch a lot of it for free. There is premium stuff as well, but most of it's for free. And if you check out rockfin.com/Lee Camp, and the reason I didn't want to join another platform, I already got 15 going or whatever. But the reason I ultimately decided it was worth it is because they seem to care more about creators. They're not going to censor us like YouTube does. Creators get paid a small amount, unlike YouTube. Even without ads, YouTube was paying with people with ads, but even that they're trying to get around, right, by doing YouTube memberships so that you don't have to see the ads, which means the creators don't get paid. Now, luckily, I don't make my living from the YouTube ads, so I wasn't that worried about that, but I was worried for all my friends who are creators and fucking can't earn a living anymore. But anyway, so rockfin.com/Lee Camp. That's where that is. And I will see you Sunday, 8 p.m. live stream, 8 p.m. Eastern with Eleanor Goldfield. And that is only at youtube.com/momentofclarity. Keep fighting.